on, guys, and welcome back to yet another video. I'm your host, Friends Gamer, and today I want to talk about the latest status of the Pirate101 Nuzlocke series. As for those who don't know, we have finally reached a little bit further of the midway point, as we finally have beat Mushu. So we now have a total of 12 streamed episodes, and there's not much left until the very end of the Nuzlocke series. That is if we make it there, but I have pretty high hopes that we'll probably make it there fairly nicely. And here is the update for everything that's been going on from the Nuzlocke series. So in terms of the roadmap here, we changed the idea of the roadmap. Now we're gonna basically go with map number 2, and the idea here is to get ourselves Raised Barricade. The reason why we want Raised Barricade is it's great for us to get more of a potential good starter. We want to make sure that the first few rounds are going to be mostly just buffing, and having something like Barricade could be really useful because it forces the enemies to either split up or also forces them to take a little bit longer to reach to all of me and my companions. So the whole idea right now is get Raised Barricade. We're gonna get Rough 2 once we finally get Raised Barricade and go from there. So pretty much what we have now, we finally have Grape Shot. Once we do the Zeke quest, we're gonna be getting Claw Trap, and once we reach either 55 or 60, I believe, I'm not sure whichever comes first. Either I get to level 60 or I finish the Marleybone Zeke quest, we'll finally be able to obtain ourselves with Raised Barricade, which is going to be super helpful within the end portion of the Nuzlocke series. Now, there are a few things that I want to know. Obviously, for those who are unaware, the only reason why we've made it this far within the Nuzlocke series is because of Handsome Dan. Handsome Dan, who actually helped us throughout the journey in terms of the Bumballoons. We only used him once and once ever, and it was great to have him around. He was definitely really useful at a really critical point of the series that could have ended really early, since unfortunately most of our crew were defeated by scorpions. And there are going to be some other things that I plan doing. So other things that I haven't done yet that I will be doing in the future, we will be doing the Mumanchu side quest before, I believe during the beginning of Marleybone, just for fun. And we're also not going to have that be part of the Nuzlocke rules. It's just going to be for fun mainly. And we will be having a Aquila side quest stream. And for this stream, it's going to be mainly about doing every single side quest that gives a really good amount of experience, and that way we'll be able to get fairly close to level 70. If not, we get to level 70 either before the end of Aquila or at the beginning of Florenza, which is going to be really important since we can get Contessa at a fairly high level, and also it kind of helps us with getting set up with all the companions being at their max potential right then and there, which is going to be a plus for sure. Now, the other thing that's also going to be happening is once I reach to level 65, I will be doing a dedicated streams to farming Mumanchu with viewers. And this is because I do have a handful of gear that probably might be better if I had Mumanchu instead of Kane. So we'll be farming that for sure. Now, in terms of companion quests, luckily we do have a couple more companion quests for Mushi, which we'll be doing in episode 13. We have Hu Hao, and we also have a Neko, who are going to be really great additions since we did lose 2 companions in the recent episode, being episode 12, which honestly is really rough, but at the same time, it was something that I was prepared for to happen. So fortunately, it's not necessarily in vain since we got 2 new companions, and more companions is definitely a great thing every single time, since it gives me more time to save some of my best companions for Kane. For those who are actually wondering, my strategy for Kane really is going to be with Emmett. We're going to be having Ratbeard, and the third person is likely going to be Old Scratch. Those are going to be the main guys that we're going to have for Kane. The idea is that we use Emmett in order to reduce movement, which is going to be extremely useful. We're going to have Scratch to buff us quite a lot in terms of a lot of our spells, mainly for Gunnery, and other spell power spells are very similar to Gunnery. And we're also going to be using Ratbeard because not only is he a tank, but with Hold the Line 3 and Repel Borders 3, it's going to be really useful to have him around. So it's definitely going to be very crucial that we have him in the team. So finally, we actually get to the deaths so far. This is the list of all the deaths, which will be updated during every stream, or at least at the very end of every stream of the Nuzlocke series. That way I can keep track of myself, and so you guys can keep track of how the status is going for a lot of the companions. So what I did is I gave myself a little bit of a leeway. I wanted to make sure that it is somewhat that is doable, so that I don't end the series too early, but still gives myself a really good amount of a challenge. So what we did is we gave every companion 2 lives. Their first life is at the beginning of Skull Island. We also give them their second life at the beginning of Mushu, so every dead companion is revived, or every companion that hasn't been defeated will have a total of 2 lives. So this is pretty much what we have so far. Machionis, Eggshen, Lucky Jack, Bonnie Ann, haven't really used them since from like Skull Island all the way to Cold Ranch for very specific reasons, because they're super good and I want to save them if I like need them critically. We have recent deaths, mainly just side companions, which is definitely a really good thing, is that it's mainly just side companions that aren't as great. So my really good ones are still alive to this day in Marleybone, or at least heading to Marleybone, and hopefully it stays that way for Aquila and even Valencia. I will say it will be really great to have them still around in Valencia for sure. These are actually the most recent deaths in the series, and it's really sad, but honestly I am doing a little bit better than what I expected. It seems that at this pace we should be able to get through Marleybone just fine. There are a few things to keep in mind though. Marleybone is where the difficulty does amp up a bit for Pirate101, and it makes me a little scared because there are a few enemies I'm super scared of in terms of doing the Nuzlocke. One of the biggest enemies I'm super scared of is going to be the Armada Dragoons. For some reason, these specific Dragoons are extremely overpowered, and range characters are literally like one of the worst units to have there, because they already have an ability that is going to counter those range characters right away. I'm not sure as to why they only had it specifically in Marleybone and not in Valencia Part 2, but part of me is actually really glad that that's the case, because they're super tough for sure. And those are one of the biggest enemies that I'm really afraid of, which is around the very end point of Marleybone anyway. The second enemy that I'm extremely scared of for sure is going to be Rook. Rook is a very interesting character for sure in terms of his combat style. He likes to stay very close to lots of allies to have the castle effect, which increases his defensive stats. And also he has a couple of cheats that, or in this case abilities, that makes it a little hard to do melee, but at the same time I still think that he can be doable. Just one thing I need to keep in mind is to not have any sort of ranged characters, because ranged characters are going to get ricocheted, which is another ability that he has that is essentially anti-musket, or in this case anti-emmet. So just something that I want to keep in mind, so that we try to make as much less deaths as possible within the series and Marleybone. But in my opinion, those are the two main things that I'm super scared of. Every other fight, it does have its moments, but the main fights that I'm really scared of is just going to be the Armada, Dragoons, and we also have Rook. So other than that, all of Aquila I'm kind of scared of because the crit chains are insane. And obviously Valencia Part 2 is going to be insane as well, because the difficulty spike amps up even more. So really, there's a lot of positivity in terms of how far can I make it with the Nuzlocke series. However, anything can happen, and it's going to be really interesting. So I do want to make this video in order to showcase to you guys as to how it's going, but also to let you guys know that you should definitely tune into the Nuzlocke series, because more than likely this is going to be the only time that I do any sort of series like this, and I do think that it's a super unique series overall. It's definitely not a new thing. It has been done before, but I believe this is one of the first few times that it is actually live stream, so we can showcase absolutely everything for the Nuzlocke as to, you know, the grinding and also like every single combat thing, like, you know, basically having you guys not really miss much of things. The only things you guys tend to miss is how my privateer gets gold, which is by having my side character, or at least having my musketeer, be getting the gold, transfer the gear to my current character for the Nuzlocke, and then sell them for gold and just get as much gold as possible, so that we don't really have the big issue of farming for gold. And also having that same character farming for gear so that I can have him ready once he hits level 70 or 65. So those are the two main things that I've done off camera, but these are things I've been doing for a while anyway. And in terms of just like the Nuzlocke pirate, it's mainly just meant for the story quest in general. But as I said, it's not going to be a series I'm going to be doing again anytime soon, and definitely give it a shot for sure if you haven't, because it's really fun. I had so many people come to me talking about how they want to do their own Nuzlockes, and it's really great to see. So thank you for all the support, and I hope to see you guys in episode 13. See ya.